There's some seriously scary stuff that's going on right now on the strip that nobody's reporting on. In the last month, two people have been found with firearms, weapons on casino floors. One man unintentionally shot himself, and another man intentionally shot himself. I want to bring you guys these kinds of stories because if you're coming here to vacation, I want to show you that the city is great. You can have a wonderful time, but there's also things you need to do and need to be aware of before you go into Vegas or any other major city for that matter. So, what I'll tell you here applies in Vegas, but in other places. We'll tell you about the stories of these two gentlemen, why this is happening, what the casinos might be able to do about it. And we'll also have to duck out parts of this audio because the YouTube algorithm and advertiser friendly guidelines mean that we can't talk about serious stuff. They want YouTube to be for 8-year-old children all the time, even when it's talking about things that fully grown adults, like the people watching this video, can easily process without being traumatized. If you like this video, I suggest you like this video, share this video, and subscribe to this channel. We do all sorts of stuff here that's different from just random slot plays like a lot of the other YouTubers do in Vegas, and I'm proud of that, and hopefully you guys like it. All right, so two instances of violence with a thing that starts with a G and ends in an N in the last month in Vegas, and one of them resulting in the loss of life forever. We get to the first incident before we get to the one that ended up in loss of life forever. That was at the Cosmopolitan. The Review Journal headline caught my eye. You don't see this stuff in the news cycle, and I'm going to tell you why right before I get to what actually happened on the strip. See, the Vegas has a very good way of burying news stories like this into the news cycle. It's not a new thing. Anytime anything serious happens on the strip, considering it's the number one profit thing and the number one employer, the number one industry in the state, it tends to get buried and disappear. This dates all the way back into the 1960s when an Army Ranger went AWOL from the services, came to Vegas, built a using dynamite, put it on a hotel on East Fremont Street, detonated the thing, taking out many people and many businesses in the process. It was a huge explosion. This was something that was released into the news and then basically played down. And even though in the 1960s there wasn't a Twitter feed to show you what happened, it still went on the national news but disappeared within a week. Pretty serious business. So the fact that we didn't see the headline that says man shoots himself on strip casino floor, faces charges while in critical condition on February 23rd, or many of you didn't see it, but I saw it, doesn't surprise me. It turns out that a man, a 30-year-old, was in critical condition, and he actually got charged while he was in the hospital. His name was Ronnie Duluth, and he shot himself while he was on the casino floor in the Cosmopolitan Hotel. It was at 5:40 a.m. that it happened, so it's not like the casino floor was very busy, but it was the second incident of this kind of thing happening in just a few weeks here in town. The first one I'll get to in a minute, and that involved the loss of life entirely. So it turns out that Ronnie, who was a three-time felon, that wasn't supposed to be carrying any kind of weapon whatsoever. And I believe there are actually laws that prevent folks like that from even going to the strip. So if they did catch you and run your ID, they could put you in the detention center over that, as far as I understand. Turns out that he was just kind of wandering around the strip. He was a local. He was from somewhere in Henderson, and he was in a bad place. And he was carrying a gun that went off in his thigh somehow. And the security camera footage has him just jerking up and falling over. And then hilariously enough, but not really all that funny, he takes the gun out of his pocket and he like slides it underneath a casino slot machine as though there's not 15 cameras hanging overhead watching every minute of what he did. Stupid, stupid, stupid. But it turns out that the gun was untraceable anyways because it was what they call a ghost. A ghost gun is a gun that has different parts or has the serial number filed off of it. He was actually charged with a couple of different felony counts because a person like him isn't supposed to carry a gun in the first place. So no matter how many laws we could have put on this one, it wouldn't have actually solved anything because this is just a case of a bad dude getting a gun and deciding to try to potentially be a bad guy. It backfired on him, quite literally into his thigh. They said that the bullet hadn't left the chamber. I don't know how guns work as well as some of you guys do, so that was proof that it fired when it was in his pocket because it couldn't expel and load up a new one into the chamber. The second case comes from the Rio, and that happened a few weeks prior to that. And it's a surveillance of the Rio, shows somebody who was kind of walking around the parking lot trying cars to see if anybody was silly enough to leave their doors unlocked. Always make sure when you park your car anywhere in Vegas, even if it's in the valet, I don't care. You stash all of your valuables. If you leave them in the car at all, take them with you if you can. And make sure you lock your doors. He was trying cars and then went into the casino floor, and he was wandering around the casino floor before locking himself up in the bathroom for an hour. but he was carrying a bigger one. He was carrying the type of firearm that starts with an A, second letter is an R, and then the number after 14 comes after that. That's one of the big ones. That's one of the ones that the guy that was climbing up to the Mandalay Bay used all those years ago to take out all those poor people at the Harvest Festival. So he basically left a note telling the world that he was done with all of this and goodbye, cruel world. And I'm not minimizing it. A loss of life is a loss of life. As a Christian, I hate to see a person who's so troubled that they will do that kind of thing. But I'm just grateful also that he didn't do other things. He could have taken out an entire group of people with that type of weapon that he was carrying. So I guess then the next question is, how are these people even getting into the casinos? I guess the answer to that is simple. I mean, the casino security can only go so far. Short of putting metal detectors at every single door, they're not going to be able to catch people walking into the casinos carrying a gun. It's not going to happen. You know, they can't put a metal detector at every single door and man it all the day, can they? I mean, that'll cost them a lot of money, and we know the casinos love to make a ton of money. But at the same time, that would be bad optically. I'm working on a video on Frank Sinatra. You should actually subscribe to the channel. And in the video, we talk about how in the 1960s, the FBI wanted to just basically raid Vegas casinos and pull out the mobsters, like literally by the scruffs of their neck. And the governor of Nevada, Grant Sawyer, at the time, begged John F. Kennedy himself not to let John F. Kennedy's brother, Robert Kennedy, who is the Attorney General of the United States, do that because he said that would be terrible for our business here in town. So I think also the metal detectors at the front of every single casino door would, quote unquote, be terrible for the optics of Las Vegas. But at the same time, it might make people feel safer. My wife is from the Philippines, and where she is, there's metal detectors at airports and shopping malls, and you have to go through them. And if they catch anything, then the police are involved. And there's a guy there that likely has a bigger gun than what you might be carrying. So maybe that's where it gets to make it safe in this town. Maybe the optics are reversed now. Maybe we want to see those things. I don't know. You tell me in the comments below. Do you want to see metal detectors at these buildings and these properties? And the hotels don't want people to be getting hurt on the casino floor. You imagine if the guy at the Rio didn't just take his own life, but took out a group of people, we would have another mass incident, mass casualty type event like we did all those years ago, which, suffice it to say, did damage the convention business. We had a bunch of business that canceled. So that'd be terrible for the city itself. So the casinos, I guess, have to make a decision about what they're going to do in this case. But what do you do while you're here? Well, that's easy. While you're here, and I've said it before dozens of times, don't be a tough person. Like if you're going and you're having a confrontation with somebody, you don't know what they're carrying or what they're packing, so to speak. So don't try to be brave and be some big macho man. We all want to be a macho man, as the song goes, but just let it slide off your back while you're here. Make sure if you're a drinker, you're not an angry one, because you don't want to create a confrontation with somebody that could be that person that not just ruins your vacation, but ruins your life while you're in town. Bad people exist in all levels of society. It doesn't matter what you do, you can't get rid of them. It's not a Vegas problem so much as it is a societal problem, but I hope that when you come here, you'll realize that you don't know who you're facing off against. You don't know if the person is from New York and having a bad day and they're going to throw down with their fists, or if you don't know if they're from Henderson and having a bad day and they're packing heat. It's a serious thing to consider when you come here, and I hope you have a safe trip whenever you do decide to come. And that's the video for today, so you guys can know the actual serious stuff that's going on here in Vegas. My name is Steven. I'm not leaving Las Vegas. I'm a Vegas channel. Like, share, subscribe. We'll talk to you in another one. And I am out with a 3, 2. Love you, Caroline. Be safe out there. And 1, and click.